very close to tragedy, that we will win this war. Hamas will be no more. That horrible day. We're never going to forget it. Things are getting pretty bad pretty fast. What happens if I come back from the holiday and turn on my phone and there's 75 dead Israelis? I don't know where that number came from. That was like my brain could not fathom. 75 was like the craziest my brain would imagine. The way I view my mission is very specific. So anything that's outside of this mission, I decline, even if it's something important, fundraisers and things like that. I'm focused on my mission, and my mission is as follows. The first part is fighting misinformation, but not just fighting misinformation like many people do. I focus on providing real-time accurate information, which those two things are generally mutually exclusive, because if it's real-time, then you have no way to verify it. And if it's accurate, then it takes time to verify. I'm focused on cross-referencing every piece of information that I get, whether it's from the IDF, whether it's from the government, whether it's from 50 other channels. And I'm very careful of what I share, but I'm also very careful to share it in real time. So for example, the hospital story, I tweeted, a half an hour before anyone even knew about the hospital, that I said, heads up, you're about to hear about a hospital being bombed. You're going to be told it was the IDF. It was not the IDF. And that tweet got millions of views. So by the time the propaganda machine kicked into, high gear and everyone was being told it was Israel, those millions of people who read my tweet knew that it was propaganda, which, as far as I'm concerned, that's impact. And so I'm very focused on real-time information that's accurate. That's part one of my mission. Part two of my mission is our group, is providing hope and optimism and good news. Whenever there's a lot of, we're all devastated, we're all in mourning, but there's a lot of amazing, beautiful things happening. And so, I'm very strongly focused on raising spirits. I've done something in the war that I've never done before, which is I now cannot read the replies that I get to my tweets. So I always would engage everyone. And Ari, my late brother, always engaged everyone. That was part of his kind of philosophy, always engage, which is something I always did. But the volume that I'm dealing with has become completely impossible to manage. And, the way I see it, there are three groups. This is the way I categorize the internet. There are three groups. There's our group, meaning the pro-Israel. We don't need convincing, but we do need strengthening. We do need reinforcement. We do need ammunition in terms of the facts and the ability to answer questions. We need that. Then there's the third group, which is the people that I sadly have to write off, because they're coming at me with, pictures of my dead brother and his kids with fire coming out of them and calling Hitler, and, people that I can't engage with because they're not with me on the same plane. But then there's the majority. And I think it's by far the majority, which is the middle group. It's the group of people that aren't necessarily pro-Israel, but they have integrity. They're willing to listen. They're willing to hear. They're willing to be convinced. And so those are the people that, as far as I'm concerned, are my target audience. And, the response has been absolutely incredible. I'm getting hundreds, sometimes thousands of messages a day telling me I simply did not know that that's what Zionism was. I wrote a pretty long tweet about Zionism, but in a factual way, no opinions, no politics, just what is Zionism? And I got messages from people, not one and not two, saying to me, I simply did not know. I thought Zionism was racism. I didn't know any of this. And so, it's a very strong focus of mine to target those people that are willing to hear you. But I'm not going to pretend that the hate that I'm getting is, I like to say I thick skin, but after all these years on the internet, it still gets to me. I got to be honest. It's a wild thing that happened to me. I met with someone, shall remain unnamed. You can go look it up. But I met with someone and we took a picture. We were in the Sheraton in Tel Aviv. We took a picture at the end of our meeting in front of the beach. It was a beautiful picture. And I posted it on X, on Twitter, and some anti-Semite took our picture, photoshopped us out of the picture, and put us in a background of Gaza. So behind us, you see destruction of Gaza and, people buried under the destruction, and me and my friend smiling with a selfie. And they posted it, and it got, this person has 1 million followers. It got hundreds of thousands of engagements of people saying, these disgusting Zionists, how could he stand there smiling in front of Gaza like that? And, we reported it to Twitter. Twitter said, oh, there's nothing wrong with it because it's clearly parody. It's clearly not. And I'm like, but look at the comments. This is not. No one knows this isn't real. Well, Twitter didn't take it down. And someone, put a community note on it saying this is misleading. And Twitter removed the community note. So I'm dealing with this every day. The anti-Semitism is staggering. It's staggering to see, the same blood libels, the same tropes. It's just unbelievable, really unbelievable. When we say never again, we didn't, as far as I'm concerned, we didn't only mean never again concentration camps. We meant never again the level of anti-Semitism. And here we are, right? And, it's a scary thing because, the transition from dangerous rhetoric to the extermination of Jews in Europe took years. Here it took a month, 2 months, and it's pretty scary stuff. But I do think that, as a nation, the Jewish nation, we have this tendency to not see what's right in front of our eyes. All the way back to the Bible in ancient Egypt, when we talk about the 10 plagues, which is this week's Torah portion, many people don't know is that even after those 10 plagues, even after God literally said, get out of here, 80% of the Jews stayed back. 80%. Only 1/5 left Egypt. How could that be? Because they said, I'm Egyptian. I was born here. Leave me alone. This land of milk and honey. I'm staying here. We tend to not see things that are in front of our eyes, and especially when we're in it. When we talk about the different holidays that we celebrate, Purim and Hanukkah and all of these things, and we celebrate, but we don't really think what the story was there. I mean, Purim was the near genocide of the Jewish people. And if you had told me in the time of Purim that one day I'm going to celebrate Purim, I would have said to you, you're insensitive. How could you even say such a thing? We're suffering. And Hanukkah, we weren't supposed to win that war. And Passover, we were ancient Egypt, the strongest empire in the world. We brought them to their knees, but we were enslaved and persecuted for 210 years. So when you're in it, it's very hard to see. And that's true for our current situation. We're in it, and we're all suffering, and we're all mourning, we're all sad. But if we do take a step back, and it's hard to do, and again, it might even be perceived as insensitive, but for our own sanity, we have to take a step back and look at how did all of this fits into history. And, I would never, God forbid, say that God did, October 7th. I don't understand God's ways, but I am going to say that every single time I hear about a rocket landing in an empty space, I ask myself, where are these empty spaces? Like, this is a country smaller than New Jersey. Where are these empty spaces? And so from my perspective, the fact that they've fired, 20,000, 30,000 rockets since, the last couple of years into Israel, and we have, single digit casualties, to me, it's like, that is pretty miraculous stuff. And even the Iron Dome, right? I mean, we talk about the Iron Dome. Yeah, okay, no problem. Just detonate rockets in the air, 95% precision, as if that's normal. Right? These are unbelievable things. And, I'm sure maybe, I don't know if you know Daniel Gold, who invented the Iron Dome, but he told me the story. He came up with this idea, and everyone told him it's impossible. The military told him it's possible. The government told him you can't detonate a rocket in midair. It's impossible. And here we are. And these are unbelievable things. And so my message, I think that I tell myself all day, every day, and I have to, because it's hard. It's really hard to look at this, not through a human lens, because if we look at this through a human lens, we'll lose our mind. I mean, none of this makes any sense. How could it be that people deny October 7th when there's HD footage of it? How could that be? On October 8th, I said to myself, the silver lining here is at least the world's going to stand with us finally. There's no way the world's not going to stand with us after this. And here we are. So, my message is pretty clear, and I tell this to myself, and I'm telling it to you, and that is that, again, Purim and Hanukkah and all of them, they were very close to tragedy, and we celebrate them today. And I am telling you that we will win this war. Hamas will be no more. We will always remember, that horrible day. We're never going to forget it, but we will dance again. Simchas Torah, the holiday on which this happened, is going to be the happiest day of the year again. We will grab and hold our Torah scrolls tighter than ever before, and we will dance again, just like we do on Purim and just like we do on Hanukkah. It is going to take some time. We're going to have to win this war. It's going to take patience, but from a person who just opens history books, just open history books. The script is already written. It happens every single time. And I would say that, I don't think, God forbid, I wouldn't even imply that there's going to be concentration camps in, 2024 in the United States or anywhere else. That's not going to happen. But things are getting pretty bad pretty fast. And I would say that really, as we say, never again is happening. We have Israel, and we're here always. And we're here thanks to you, really. So, that is really my message. My message is this is one of the darkest times in our history. We're all suffering. Sometimes I can't get out of bed. And the other day when we lost those soldiers, unfortunately, because I have access to intel information from different sources, I knew about it, 15 hours before it was released. And I couldn't sleep. I didn't even know what to do with myself. So, I'm not pretending, or implying that, we're going to win this and everything's great. No, it's hard. It's very, very hard, especially, I'm not comparing myself to the soldiers on the front lines, but I'm on the front lines of the digital war, and it's pretty bad. I'm in the mud all day long. I'm in it, deep in it, and it's hard. But, it's clear to me that my mission is an important one. It's clear to me that people depend on me. And I think that, if I'm just going to kind of leave you with one practical piece of advice, there's a very common misconception that people say to me all the time, which is that I don't have a lot of followers. Well, what's the point of me posting on Facebook? I'm just talking to my echo chamber, right? Everyone's heard that, my echo chamber. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not how social media works, because if you have 2 followers and you post something on your Facebook that's impactful and it's written well and it's meaningful, if one of those people shares it, you've just exited your echo chamber, because now you access their followers. You have now you've exited your. So, I think each and every one of us has, the ability, and, I think we really have the obligation in a way to not scroll our social media feeds like drug addicts. That's what we do. We can't do that. We each have to use, our ability to impact and influence. And again, that's something that Ari taught me. There is no limit to how much impact a person can have. And so, each in our own way, not saying that everyone needs to be on social media, but we all have to do something. And I know that, again, the organization, the FIDF, is doing unbelievable things. But as individuals, we also have to make sure to do our part to speak up. And, it's rough when the entire world has lost their moral compass, and there's moral clarity is a it's like, wow, that guy said the truth. It's like unbelievable. It's a novelty, So we have again, I think we as a people and as a nation, not only the Jewish nation, but people that still have moral clarity. It's our obligation to speak up. It's our obligation to show that not everyone has lost it. And not everyone is spreading horrible propaganda. And there are amazing people in the pro-Israel camp. We're maybe not as loud as the people who are making a lot of noise, but we should be. We should be. And our message should be light. That is as far as I'm concerned, our narrative should not be the world hates us, and should not be double standard, and should not. Our message and our narrative for the world is a very dark place. And that darkness manifests in our social media feeds. It is our job to extinguish that darkness with our light. And that is what we're doing. We're doing now. I hope and pray that we maintain the unity that we're seeing in the Jewish people today. It's a unity, as far as I'm concerned, that we haven't seen since Mount Sinai. At Mount Sinai, the Torah describes that we stood there with one man, with one heart, unified, 600,000 men. And 600,000 men stood, 300,000 reservists and 300,000 in Washington, D.C., 600,000 people unified. So as far as I'm concerned, this is Mount Sinai all over again. And so I'll just leave you with those 4 words. They're the most important words, and you have to keep telling this to yourself. I have to keep telling it to myself on an hourly basis. We will dance again. There's the physical battlefield, the military battlefield, and the digital battlefield. I actually don't view it that way. I think that they are completely go hand in hand. So again, for example, the hospital story. If we had not convinced the world that it wasn't us, the war would have been over that day, right? We would have been isolated diplomat. The perception and, public opinion isn't disconnected from the military operation. They go hand in hand. And it is our job, who are, the people on the internet, to make sure that people know the truth and that people don't believe the propaganda. Because again, it seems to me that in our world, virtue of truth does not exist anymore. Truth is irrelevant. And it's our job to be the messenger of truth. We have to keep our moral clarity. It's hard because it seeps in. You hear the propaganda, you start believing it. It's like, am I crazy, or is the whole world crazy, right? So we have to keep speaking up. We have to keep our moral clarity. It's not easy, but it's important mission.